What's going on, people? How you doing today? This is Daniel Rucker with True Table. I wanted to go ahead and tap in today, talk to my fellas. Ladies, feel free to listen. This is beneficial to you too. But definitely want to talk to my fellas. So anybody that's been paying attention to the manosphere as of lately has probably heard the term high value. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, who has been pretty much the gatekeeper or the brand ambassador on introducing this term to those people who've never heard it. The term high value, how he has even explained, has not been something that just arrived. It's not a new term. It's not a new philosophy. It's been around for quite some time, since the beginning of time, actually. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on is the fact that the placement of focus when it comes to the money associated with being high value is somewhat, I believe, eluding most people. And again, this is just my assumption based on what I hear. I think that most men would aspire to be a high value man. Now, will most men get there? There's no telling. The likeliness of putting yourself in a position to actually attain high value status is fairly difficult. It's not something that you just fall into. It's not something that you just oops and accidentally arrive at. It's something that over the series of time you cultivate. And that cultivation is from things that are skill sets, that are characteristics, that are things that you as a person self-reflect on and understand that you have to attach in oneself in order to become one of value, period. So what I wanted to do today is to just briefly touch on it, that the characteristics of a man should be the focal point. You being someone of integrity, you being someone of, dependability, you being someone that is known for something, good characteristics, a good time, dependable, traits. Because a lot of what is being discussed, I believe, is that the men that are high value, or the men that are aspiring to be high value, or the men that are in the company of high value men are expressing to men that are not of high value that in order to receive a certain treatment, specifically from women, the only way that's going to happen is if you get high value status. I don't believe that. I don't believe that it is solely based on a status per se. I believe that as a man, one, identifying with the characteristics that is high value is the first part of the journey. Understanding your value as a man comes with, again, series of tests, series of things, series of seasons in your life where you're going to grow, where you're going to change, where you're going to cultivate. Through that starts to become and crystallize the man that you will be. And in that developmental stage, in that journey, the response from people and the response from women will be different. What do I mean? It is not your money solely that automatically makes a woman, or people for that matter, respect you. What makes people respect you and what establishes a certain sense of solidarity is the consistency in you, in your behavior, you as a person, in your character, your verbiage, your presentation, the handling of self first, and then the handling of your business. Business is collective. Business is friends. Business is actual, businesses, commerce, things of that nature. How you decide to handle things represents so much of high value characteristics. Now I'll give you an example so that I could make it clear for you, because one of the things that I have not heard yet from, Fresh and Fit, Kevin Samuels, who else? Lapeef Let's Talk, and a series of other people who are in this space, I have not heard them discuss, at least in detail, and forgive me, I haven't. And not to say that they have not done it, I just haven't heard it. and I'm an avid listener of all of these particular content creators. But one of the things that I have not heard emphasized is how when a man is presented with certain things, the response on what he chooses to do with situations, episodes and things of that nature. I was recently, just give me an example. This is again my example from what I believe. When you start to understand the position of who you are, how you want to arrive in a place of being viewed, respected, handled, treated as a high value man, it first starts with who you are as an individual. Period. So I was out recently, and there was a discrepancy on entering this particular night venue. And what was happening with the night venue was that they had recently just introduced a new dress code. A friend of mine who was with me wasn't particularly in line with their dress code. The dress code was not necessarily listed, nor was it conveyed in a clear delivery of what they were looking. It was almost left, it was a discretionary thing. So when we met at the front of the line, gave them our IDs, and the host was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but you won't be allowed to be permitted." I found that odd because this particular venue we had actually went to a week before and had no issue, no problem. So, I'm talking to the host and I'm like, "Hey, so why exactly are you denying us entry?" I was curious. I wanted to know, and I kept the same tone I'm keeping now. I was assertive, but I was inquiring because I really wanted to know. And she was stating that the main reason was because, and she was honest, she pulled me to the side and she was like, they have to kind of introduce a practice that is now being put in place to eliminate the capacity, because we're still currently in COVID and experiencing the limitations in capacity, right? Okay, great. Well, as I observed the line, the way I was dressed, the way my friend was dressed was a lot better than there's some people that they were admitting. And what I noticed is that we were in two different lines. We were in General Pop. They were in VIP. They were going to spend a couple $1,000s for a bottle. Great. That's not my flow. That's not what I was doing. So they were allowing people to actually enter the building who were paying a premium price to do so. Great. No harm, no foul. Her explaining that to me, however, gave me more ammunition, because now I'm like, okay, that's totally understandable. That you are permitting these people, you're not permitting us, supposedly. And so I just went and asked her, just direct. I said, is there a particular reason why we are the only chocolate people in line that you are denying entry? And I did it for two reasons. One, I wanted to put her in a position to make her a little uncomfortable, but I also wanted to see if there was a legitimate reason why we were being denied entry, and not only because of the quote-unquote dress code. Kept the same tone. She immediately was like, "Oh, no, not at all, sir. We would never discriminate against anybody based on, ethnic background, so on and so forth." I said, "Okay, well, where's your manager?" And her manager just so happened to be 3 feet from her. Anyway, long story short, when I spoke to the manager actually was like, I understand, it's unfortunate, reiterated what her host had said. She had cleared me for being dressed appropriately to be entered into the venue. My friend, however, she asked him if he wouldn't mind turning his shirt inside out because the graphic on his shirt. We ended up handling the situation, we ended up getting in. And what I did after that is I had actually found that lady, the manager of the venue, and I talked to her, introduced myself, told her my name is Daniel, shook her hand firmly, and I thanked her for, taking care of that situation and allowing us to enter the venue. But I did it for two reasons. I wanted to establish myself visually, and I wanted to leave an impression, one, that I was grateful, at the same time was appreciative. And what I found, fellas, is that in most cases, that's what's going to last more than anything. is the impression of maturity, the impression of communicating in a way that is not irate, in a way that is not ghetto, in a way that is not coming across responding in immediate anger and frustration. There's a way that you as a man have to develop to be able to convey your thoughts, your discrepancies, your disrespect when you're met with it head on. But the way you handle it will always echo and stand in the minds of those people who are going to have positions of power and access in business and so on and so forth. That's what sticks more. That lady didn't know if I had money or not. She probably didn't care. She didn't know if my friend had money or not. She, again, probably didn't care. But in my opinion, money should not be the only entry into access when it comes to people. Because one thing that money cannot do is it cannot build relationships. It requires a person to build the relationship. It requires a growth in you to cultivate relationships, to cultivate your image, to cultivate your persona, and then continue to deliver that in a way that is consistent in the minds of the people you meet. This is a characteristic of high value. And a lot of times, as of lately, I've heard people, and because there's still a confusion. If you talk to the average person, they still don't really quite understand high value. I think that there is a heavy emphasis on the financial aspect. And I'm not denying that money is not a byproduct of high value. Money is definitely a byproduct of high value. But besides just money, there were times when people who were of status had no money. And what allowed them to remain in the realm of high value men, high value status, high value living was the relationship they cultivated, was the persona, was the consistency and character that they left in the minds of those people who knew them as someone of value, regardless of what their bank statement said, regardless of how much money they had. And that's what I wanted to touch on today, is that in this pursuit of developing yourself, fellas, it is of the utmost importance to understand that being on your purpose, accomplishing success, getting more money, getting more tangible things, that's all good and great. But none of that matters if the authenticity of self doesn't exist, in my opinion. The treatment that you get from specifically women, because I know a lot of emphasis is placed on that, of being high value and getting this response from women. The response you get from women is gonna come whether you have a lot of money or not, in my opinion. The limitations you have with less money is more about what you're able to do and experience when it comes to tangible things, comforts in life, travel, and certain experiences. Truth be told, you need money in order to open doors. I'm not knocking that. But when you're talking about relational things on a dimension that is just myself and you, when I park the Lambo, when I close the door to the mansion and we're in the company of just self, a woman wants to deal with the how would I work this? Sorry if I'm stumbling. She wants to deal with the legitimacy of you. I believe that's what allows the wholeness of the man to remain. All the tangibles are nice. What you can provide for her is nice. What sustains is the impression of you. And that comes with developing your speech patterns. That comes with having knowledge on things. That comes with being able to interpret your own thoughts, interpret other people's conversations, have dialogue. a lot of men don't even like to talk unless it's about something like sports or business or comic books. And I'm not knocking those things. But when you're dealing with a woman, some of those successful traits you can get is something as simple as being able to converse with her. One of the things that I know, and this has been told to me from multiple women, what has always helped in my nurturing of relationships, both platonic as well as romantic, is that the one thing they all said was that I never had a man talk to me. Like, my past men don't talk to me. They don't talk. They don't ask questions. They're not interested. They don't seem to ever try to dive into what goes on in my mind, and so on and so forth. And I found that interesting because all of these females were very attractive. So it started to be apparent that I'm like, well, dang, why aren't they talking to you? What is it about the men you're attracting that they don't find it necessary to try to converse with you? And I know this video is being a little long today. I apologize. Thank you for hanging with me. But I wanted to just go ahead and touch on that and give as much content to this particular topic as possible. That with the pursuit of high value men, it is more than just the money you acquire. Focus on the core who you are. Focus on being the best version of yourself in a way that is unique and significant, because I promise you, you can't lose there. That's all I'm gonna say for today. This is Daniel Rucker with Truth Table. Go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate it. I will be coming with you with some more content this week. Should be exciting. Thank you, guys.